gonna teach you guys how to make goat milk soap, or at least show you my process. Things first, I'm not gonna give you an actual recipe though. The recipe that I use calls for 7 oils and butters, and that can be pretty expensive when you're getting started. You can go online and find much simpler recipes as far as how much milk and oils and butters to use. And then once you get familiar with that, you can get familiar with the soap calculator and figure out what you want your soap to do, and then kind of mess around with your own recipe. But I'm gonna show you the process. First thing I do is get my scent ready. Every essential oil or fragrance oil has a safe usage rate, and you want to pay attention to that. You're putting it on your skin. You don't want to end up with chemical burns or bad reactions. You can also, there's fragrance calculators online, and you can put in whatever essential oils you're using and it'll tell you the amount. So that's the first thing I do, is I've mixed up my lemongrass and eucalyptus essential oils. That way it's just ready to go and I can dump it in my batter when I'm ready. Second thing I do is pull out my goat milk and let it start to thaw just a little bit while I get everything else ready. You want to freeze your goat milk. We use milk from our dairy goats here at the farm, so whenever I'm done milking them, I strain it and then I freeze it. You want to freeze it because whenever you're adding the LYE, we'll talk about that word in a minute, if you freeze it, it won't scorch your milk and you won't end up with ugly colors and bad scents. One more thing to keep in mind about the scents you use: if anything has vanilla in it, there's a good chance it's going to turn your soap brown. So keep that in mind. And also, certain scents can accelerate your trace, meaning it gets really thick and makes it a little harder to do a design. So you want to keep that in mind when you're picking your essential oils or fragrance oils. What I do is measure all of my liquid oils and put them together, and then I measure my solid butters and put them together and melt them. So this is coconut oil and shea butter. And now we're gonna melt this, and once it's melted, we'll add it to all the other oils. While those melt, let me talk to you about temperature. You want the temperature of your oils and your milk mixture to be about 10 degrees of each other when you mix them together to blend them. I do it between about 90 to 100 degrees or 80 to 90, but you want them within 10 degrees of each other. The cooler your mixtures are, I find that it stays liquid longer. So like if you're doing a really cool design, you might want it to be a little bit more liquidy. If you're doing layers or something, you might want it to be a little bit more solid. But the higher the temp, the thicker it is. Now that this is all melted, we're gonna add all of our oils together. And oils are expensive and we're following a recipe, so we're gonna scrape and get all of our oil out of there. I took the temperature, and this is right at about 90 degrees, so it's gonna cool just a little while I do everything else, and we're gonna want our milk solution to be between 80 and 90 degrees. This is where I add my oil, if I'm gonna use color, to that. So I like to mix all the oil together, and then I add a little oil to the color. I find that then it incorporates into your batter a lot better. So I just take usually about 1/4 of a cup. And then we're gonna mix that in there. And then you're just gonna stir your mica or your clay, whatever you're using, in with your oil really well so it distributes nicely when you add it all together. One other thing I've done that I didn't show is I got an ice bath ready in the sink. So as I'm mixing my LYE into my milk, I can cool it off if I need to. So speaking of, this is Big Bad LYE. I don't want to say the word because some platforms don't like it. You cannot have soap without this. If it goes through a process called saponification, which is where the word soap comes from, and when that's done, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks for your soap to fully cure. None of this is left in the final product. None of it. It's safe, you're good. If your soap doesn't have this in it, it's not really soap, it's a detergent, and a lot of times has other harsh chemicals in it. So if you get soap from someone else and maybe you're like, oh, it doesn't have that in it, but it says saponified oils of, it was made with this. You don't have to be scared of this. This is okay. Okay, so I've got that measured out. I've got the ice bath. We're gonna measure our milk. I've got my frozen milk in here measured, and now we are going to slowly add this into here so it melts, and I do a little bit at a time. Again, we want to make sure that it doesn't scorch. So I'm just going to add it a little bit at a time and stir it until it's melted and everything's dissolved. Okay, so we have this all melted. and it is getting hot, so I'm gonna put it in a water bath, and we want it to get to be between 80 and 90 degrees. So I'm just gonna let it hang out in a water bath until it does that. It does it pretty quickly. Both of these mixtures are between 80 and 90 degrees, so we're gonna add our oil into the milk mixture and to stick blend until it gets to a light trace. So sorry for the noise. I'm gonna separate this. Sometimes you can weigh it. I'm just guesstimating. So we're gonna put some in there. Sorry, the camera. We're gonna add yellow to one and green to one, and we add the scent very last in case it accelerates trace. I wanna try to do just like a in the pot / hanger swirl. So I want this to be still pretty liquidy. So I'm just gonna pour it in alternately. That rubber band is in my way. And also I'll be making a massive mess, just FYI. Some people do real fancy tops. I tend to leave them plain so they're nice and flat. We're gonna give it a beat on the counter. And I've kind of had to make I forgot about this. I'm having some mold troubles. So that rubber band might mess things up, but we're just gonna do a hanger swirl. Okay, there you go.